Hello everybody, welcome back to Let's Play Suzerain. Let us continue on from where we last left off. So, we are going to be having a budget allocation. Preparations for the government budget was finished. Most of the cabinet gathered in the White Room for an important occasion. This is 7 people, that's way too many people to be in one room. Nearly half the year had passed since my inauguration. The cabinet looked overworked. I'd like to use this opportunity to issue a statement. Of course, sir. We're doing great work. This is just beginning. There will be many good things to come. You know, years ago, all of us gathered to change the course of history. Now I'm proud of what we've accomplished and what we have done. The minister appeared energized by my statement. Much appreciated, sir. Sadly, Peter Victor, Gus Manager, and David Whiskey won't be attending this meeting. They're working for the upcoming trade agreements with Sordland and Agnolia. Probably because they also can't have just too many people in one room. May the Lord be with them. Sierra gave a barely disguised eye roll. She's the Minister of Education? Yes. Before we begin, nobody is going to mention a ban on the young swords. However much of their political aims might differ from our administration, surely you must agree that freedom of expression must be protected at all costs. Mrs. Morgana is right. Nia flashes her appreciative smile. I myself strongly disagree with the young swords politics, but even I believe that, as she broke out, she knows that Lucian, Simon, and Yosef were looking at her and Nia with a stony stance. Ladies, let's leave the extravagant chit-chat for afternoon tea. There's a shot of pleading look at Linus, who merely pursued her lips disapprovingly. If you have a problem with the ban, call a separate meeting with me. Simon started loudly shuffling some documents around. All eyes turned to the Minister of the Economy. You know what? Let's begin, Mr. Hole. Gladly. Today is the big day. We must prioritize our spending wisely in order to achieve the goals we set as a government. While maintaining enough political support, if I might add, promises were made during the election. These are the 3 things regarding the budgeting of the 4 main branches of the government. It's either we increase, maintain, or decrease the funding. Increasing will result in improvement of the branch, which will unlock new policy options. Maintaining, we keep the funding, resulting in no visible change, and decrease will cause a loss of efficiency on that branch. The problem is not how the amount of money we spend, it's how efficiently we spend it. It's true that many of our policies could be far better implemented. Our welfare system is full of issues that need to be addressed, for instance. We have to be careful as to what we fund, so we have resources remaining for other investment projects. You know what? Yeah, we should prioritize the most critical branches. Agreed. We've already made strategic decisions about our budget since our resources are fairly limited. Before we begin a discussion, we have one thing that I want to voice my opinion on. As we manage the government budget, we are obviously able to go into debt to invest in different branches. Although debt is a possibility, under these circumstances, it would dent our financial system, worsen the economic crisis if we push it too far. A point for me as well, to everyone before the discussion, given the current state of the country, the economic situation is a political priority right now, more so than ever. This budget will be applicable to our entire team. It's very critical that we plan correctly. Let us begin in. Which branch should we discuss first? Let's discuss healthcare. Our healthcare system is vast and provides free services to most of our citizens, but the quality of our healthcare system is far worse in low-income and rural areas. Therefore, I think we should receive more funding to address this properly. I agree, I've recently begun an investigation into healthcare in Arbel, and the numbers are not good. If we don't increase spending on the health services, we at least need to maintain it, otherwise we're putting lives at risk. We just have started a new analysis on what would happen if a pandemic struck Sordland. According to the results, our healthcare facilities remain in their current state. That death toll would be unimaginable. I'm not even talking about damage to the economy. This is a matter of life or death, Mr. President, and it should be treated as such. Very worrying on top of what Pascal said. We need to remember that we promised to focus on healthcare during an election campaign. That is only if. I mean, yeah, what are the chances of that happening, right? I mean, we need to improve healthcare. What are we here for if we can't keep people alive? After that, let's discuss law enforcement. I'd like to have an increase in the funding of law enforcement to increase the size of police force and raise salaries. We have many internal threats to tackle, and we're already stretching our units too far thin with the limited resources allocated to me. Nia clears her throat. Law enforcement is certainly a high priority. However, I feel that tackling internal corruption is of far higher importance than increasing our police presence. Directing the funds to my department would solve the problems at its root. If corruption is so rampant, all the police in the world won't help us. We need a specialized anti-corruption police unit, which we could create if the funds were directed to me. I agree with Ms. Morgana. We should not reward a structure that is responsible for the ever-increasing number of human rights violations. Additionally, corruption is a reason for government inefficiencies. It needs to be tackled. The police here serve and protect the people of Sordland, Ms. Walda, and that's exactly what they are doing. More funding will allow us to take care of our police forces. It is quite a simple choice given the current state of the country. I agree with Nia. We need real solutions for real problems like corruption. Now, what about the opinions of the military? What is it I hear about? I've already voiced my opinions. Runeberg is coming whether we like it or not. If not this year, next year. If not next year, the year after that. Mr. President, you and I have a shared responsibility to protect this nation from its enemies, and I intend to do so until my last breath. I say with certainty that Runeberg doesn't make a move in Sordland in 2 or 3 years. My name is not Joseph Lesia. Joseph begins to lose control of the volume of his voice. There can be no argument against increasing our budget for the army when there's an enemy on our doorstep waiting for us to make one wrong move. Anyone who thinks otherwise is a fool, Mr. Lesia. Right, part of my theatrics, sir. But this is a serious matter. The future of the country is up to you, Mr. President. Well, here's an argument. The armed forces does nothing but eat away at financial resources destined for our people while stroking the fears for an upcoming war. The issue with the Runeberg can be solved diplomatically. What kind of message are we sending to them in the whole world if we suddenly start ramping up our military budget? That we are ready to defend our nation, Miss Walda. Exactly. I mean, I kind of think we need to take the diplomatic approach, because if we just have, like, escalating military tensions, then, like, somebody's got to release that tension. So I think we need to try to be diplomatic for as much as we possibly can. What about education? Our education system is lacking, not only its funding, but also in modern curricular principles. Our outdated curriculum is wasted on our youth. That's the reason why I advocated 2 things: an increase to the budget to improve the access to education in rural areas, and a new education reform. To be honest, Sordland is lacking compared to KZ and the United Katana when it comes to education levels. The backbone of any country is its people, and we need to protect our future. We need to ensure the next generation is as well educated as our counterparts in more modern countries. Nonsense! Sordland is still here because of the very system that you insult. How can you insult the system to teach our sons and daughters the principles of national identity and pride? We won't be compared to other countries. Sordland is Sordland. You are the... yeah, Minister of the Interior. I agree, Lilith. Sordland is Sordland. I mean, we do... shit, I didn't mean to click that option. Very good talking points for everybody. Well then, the time to make a decision. Budget is calm. Consider with care, Mr. President. Simon places a stack of papers on my table. Okay, for healthcare, we will increase the health budget. Education, I will increase the health budget. Maintain. Oh no, there's 4 options. Okay. Let's. But like, here's the thing. I want to increase education, and I want to increase. But I can't like with Runeberg there. Like, we can't decrease the budget. I'm sure if I decrease it, it goes down. It goes to 1. But I don't want to be in debt. But oh my god, this is a tough choice. Oh, I don't. I'm going to take the risk and be in debt. I'm going to take the risk and be a -1. I finished the allocated government budget to satisfaction of some cabinet members and dismay of others. They and I knew this would be defined, sitting a part of our team. We have a deficit on our hands. We'll need to resort to debt financing investments. This is worrying. Agreed. Well then, let's start with law enforcement. Liz leans forward and put her hand on her chin. Neil's looking down on the floor. I suppose we'll have to make do with what we have. This is not the best situation for us. I can't increase everybody's budget, okay? I spent 1... actually, I think did I start with 3? I spent 1 on the infrastructure project. I don't know what I spent the other point on. I'm not sure we'll be able to do what this budget doesn't change. Anything that's on the matter, sir. Like, I mean, I trusted to do it. With reduction, our work will be hampered and made much more difficult. Disappointing for the people who want a sense of justice. I haven't decreased it. I haven't decreased, it's the same. Increase of funding is very welcome. We can finally go getting some comprehensive improvements to building new schools and improving the education system. Surely a well-funded and large Ministry of Education will benefit everybody. Our future depends on our children. Education is the first step in the fight against ignorance. Yeah, education in the future will not be sidelined. Our focus on it is clear, Miss Walda. Thank you. It's great to see a positive change in the attitude of the administration for the first time in a decade. Sierra Clear wasn't finished, but didn't interject. Joseph chimed in. It's a shame the military won't be getting an increase. I'll have to make sacrifices in order to maintain our defense. Lucian seems as if he was about to say something, but looked down at his notepad when Joseph eyed him. With your talent and expertise, you will overcome the issues that our military faces. It will be hard to do so, but I shall find ways. It is my duty. Joseph leaned back in his chair. Let's hear from Mrs. Bennywool. Thank you. Health budget increase will help me focus on improvements. Our people will now be safer than ever. I am also planning to tackle issues like the lack of rural hospitals and recently worrying numbers of maternal deaths. Welfare must remain a priority for our team, or for our term. There's no other way around it. Yes, health is very important to us. As we move forward, it will improve dramatically. It feels like invigorating to have the weight of the government behind my cause. This covers all branches. Each minister will approach you with respect to policy requests and expectations over the next year. Thank you for your time, participation in a significant movement. The meeting is concluded. Regardless of what happened, I wouldn't be here without you. Don't forget that we are a team. The ministers bid farewell, some excitedly, others dejected. They kindly slowly dispersed out of the White Room. The budget for our team was concluded. Yeah, so I'm now in debt, which, I mean, it's not, like, fantastic. Oh, we're actually done this chapter now. We have news here. Government budget. Look, if we're in a recession, you've kind of got to spend money to make money, right? I think that's how it works. Oh, we're done chapter 1. Chapter 2, A New Sordland. So I'm guessing that means we're probably a quarter of the way through the game. If I had to take a guess. I mean, it seems, reasonable. And A New Sordland. So we have some news. What do you got to say? Latvian League of Women's March. Vagland Navy forcing Agnolian drill ships retreat from Hedgeland. Arcasia fires the M4 ICBM. Okay, so it looks like there's going to be some tensions over this island very, very soon. That's a little bit worrying. The railway is still halfway done, and the Workers' Right Act. Signer veto. Section 1 establishes a minimum wage of 2.5 Swordis rand per hour. Section 2 sets a weekly maximum of 60 hours of labor. Section 3 establishes a double overtime pay per hour after 40 a week. Section 4 determines that workers are protected against occupational hazards and be provided humane conditions. Section 5 establishes that migrant undocumented workers have the same rights as citizens. If any employer shall not abide by these terms, they'll be heavily fined by the government. I mean, it's going to be more debt for us. We're going to sign it into law. And we do got some more people just saying some stuff there. So yeah, we're in a debt situation. I don't have money anymore. I don't have the money. We're -2 wealth right now. I'm not too sure how far down it can go before we take like major issues. I was in my office reading reports from the ministries about the current situation of the protest. My next scheduled meeting was about the law enforcement budget with Nia and Lilith. I heard some knocks on the door. Nia entered the room, took a seat at my desk. Lilith was absent. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Lilith will be late. Apparently, there was an urgent matter at the Ministry of the Interior she had to attend to. Shouldn't take long. I mean, what was the matter? There's something about supply distribution for the police forces, nothing major. I returned to my reports, and Nia soothed back, and Aaron strained her hair. There was an awkward silence. Well, while we wait, why don't we have a little chat? This might come off a little strange, but I'm proud of you. Despite everything, you're actually trying to reform the country. It's we, Nia, not me. I couldn't do any of this by myself, so no, I'm proud of you. Well, thank you. You certainly have a way with words, don't you? I wouldn't be president otherwise. She laughed. Fair enough. She leaned forward. How are you really holding up, Anton? Being the president, I mean. It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but it's also the best thing I've ever done with my life. I can imagine it's so much responsibility and so much power at the same time. I want to assist you in the country as best as I can. Unfortunately, my hands are tied with the current budget allocation we have for law enforcement. She barely finished the sentence before we heard a knock at the door. Nia almost jumped in her chair. Liz Graff entered the room. Mr. President, Nia. I hope I'm not interrupting your conversation. No. We were discussing a few things. Nia smiles at Lilith. I'm sorry for being late. It was an important matter at the ministry. Just a small dispute over who should get supplies. Nothing major. Liz took a seat next to Mia as she continued talking. Well then, let's get straight in. We will provide a brief update on the situation of law enforcement. Go ahead, Nia. The Ministry of Justice and Supreme Court are working in close collaboration with the Ministry of the Interior to address the protests in the country. I must add that thanks to the hard work of our judiciary, the law enforcement forces assigned to my ministry are doing their jobs efficiently. I would call in the successful forces on the ground, not to judicial branches of the government. Lila shot Nia a brief withering glance before she continued. The current budget has dampened hope for more funding in the force, yet here we are. With mass protests happening in the country, we are standing exactly where we were before. The decision made needs to reflect the current situation in the country. This was certainly not the right decision when we were dealing with mass protest. Agreed. Many in the Ministry of Justice hope for an increase. We're not satisfied with the decision. Regardless, this means that we'll have to deal with the growing court backlog. It is manageable, but it will be a challenge for sure. You know, I had to make sacrifice for the good of Sordland. The sacrifice might have been very damaged to the structure and integrity of Sordland. There remains to be seen, but the ripples are already being felt across the country. Our decision is not the beginning of something bad. A brief moment of deliberation passed. Liz and Nia got up from their seats. Well then, I must return to the ministry. Me too. They left the room. As soon as the door closed, I could hear muffled voices that they argued. We have an evening walk with Monica. We got some more newspapers. So, you know, yeah, there's nothing else here. So, you know what, let's go for a nice walk. Actually, what's here? What's new? We got new worker reform. Okay, that's fine. It was early evening, still light out with a faint nip of the air. Frank was at a friend's, and Dina was at an art class. Monica and I decided to go for a walk before dinner. Our favorite place for a stroll is nearby Capitol Park, the largest green space in all of Hoslord. Before the children were born, we spent many an evening engaged in deep conversation along the riverside promenade. Another favorite path wound through the woods behind the presidential housing complex to a private pond where the children could swim in the summer. I was told that Sol himself had it built. The benefits of being president. Monica met me by the door and we put on our coat and hat. I was going to suggest we walk towards Sol Square, but the guards told me it was closed for yet another protest. Wonder who they're protesting this time. The young swords are taking it too far. Old grudges die hard, I see. This is a different, a nastier breed. In any case, where shall we go? I'm not sure Capitol Park is why I plead with. It's not a wise idea in this climate either. You know, we'll listen to our wife. You're right. It's not worth the security risk. Let's stay inside the gates. I agree. Let's go then, before the children get home. I informed the guards about our route as we left the house. The guards followed at a discreet distance as we headed towards the walking trail. As we entered the woods, Monica broke the silence. So, how was your day? How was yours? Avoiding my question, are we? Very well. Oh, it's fine. I caught up with some reading while the children were at school. Just outside the gate, I glimpsed Oinus Krona, the former Minister of Justice, walking towards Capitol Park. I remember that Nia used to be his vice minister. He didn't seem to notice us as we walked by. Oinus had once fought hard and strong against Sol's judiciary reforms, but after years of government blocking his every move, he gave up on his ideals and became part of the administration. What did our ideals really mean if they could be changed so easily? What about the people we idolize? Evelyn also came around for tea. She says hi. She's been feeling rather low, though. Apparently she and Peter had a bit of a disagreement. Peter's in the doghouse again? What happened? Apparently Peter had just too much whiskey as usual and didn't behave when Evelyn's father was over for dinner yesterday. You know, Peter. What do you think of this? That's Peter, perpetually pricked. I'll have to talk with him. Good. Evelyn seems close to tears. Aren't you glad? I mean, we don't have any quarrels. Monica didn't say anything. We kept walking. That's not a good sign. You know, Evelyn hasn't been the same since what happened to her at Horsland Post last year. You remember? She got fired for supporting Alfonso. Peter tried everything to get her job back, but it didn't work. A sad day for journalism and free speech in Sordland. I completely agree. Sad day indeed. But enough about defections. I spoke to Janice on the phone. Oh, Janice, right. Do you remember? My friend from university? We were in the Swordlish Literature class together. A few years younger than me. Red hair, scar on her forehead. We had dinner with her and her husband once or twice. Neither the name or description rang a bell. Right, that Janice. Anyway, we're working at executive assistant at the Violet Pictures Film Studio. She recently became pregnant and asked her boss for paid maternity leave. And guess what? She was fired for it. That's terrible. I know. I was by myself when she told me, and that's not all. They immediately replaced her with a young, less experienced man, the son of the executive, no less. Nepotism, eh? They must have wanted him there all along. That's just what I did with her. As it happens, I mean, that's not what I meant. As it happens, another friend works at a television station that's hiring a secretary, so I connected the two of them. It doesn't solve the deeper problem, though. Exactly! I knew you'd be on the same page. When this country is still seen as wives and mothers first, human beings second. They harassed at work, underpaid, blocked from position of power, and those are the lucky ones. The fact that there's still places in this country where little girls like Dina are denied the right to an education. Okay, go on. Those little girls and people like Janice need someone to speak on their behalf, a role model, a successful woman. We reached the pond at the end of the trail. The park bench overlooked the water. Monica gestured to it as we sat down, which brings me to my point. I know that the mayor of Anrica, Curtin, Leslie, has been delivering a speech at the annual opening of the Benfey Festival. I wish to take his place and deliver the speech instead. Do I know who you are? You remember the United Sordland Party. Serves Mayor Benfey. Okay, Leslie is one of Sordland's most influential politicians. He had stayed his career in Benfey for rising to power in Arica. Benfey's current mayor had personally invited him to make the opening speech. Placing him and Monica most likely angered him, not enough to cause a major incident, but enough that he might not support me in the assembly. I want to base the speech on one's rights in Sordland, on the oppression and discrimination that we face every day, on the basis of our sex alone. I want my voice heard, and this festival is the time to do it. I just need your blessing as my husband and president of Sordland. Monica's eyes were blazing with fire that I hadn't seen since we were students. She wanted this badly, but I'd be careful of my promises. You know, you have my full support always. This is why I love you. Thank you, Anton. You have no idea how much this means to me. Monica beamed at me, her face flushed with excitement. One way or another, I want to contribute to this country no matter what happens. We are not weak, Anton. We are only strong as long as we stand by our ideals. This is why I married her. This passion and resolve. I should have anticipated that sooner or later she would join me in the political arena. We rose from the bench and started making her way back home. Otherwise, we'll end up like Colonel Soul. Say what you will, but a relic of the past was and frankly still one of the most idealistic people in Sordland. Guess again. I don't know who this is. It was Colonel, exactly. He backed down from his ideals. Oh yeah, because he was mentioned earlier. Right. Okay. Exactly. He bits back down his ideals, and everyone knows exactly who he is. Spineless. If that was how people remembered Ionis, how would they remember me? Whatever he had done, whatever ideals he had lost, he must have had his reasons. Would they remember me as a true patriot, or a former of this country? What would they write about me in the history books? Let's get back to the house for dinner. Of course, lead the way, Monica smiled. You know, I believe I will. When we arrived at the home, I called Secretary Olivia and asked her to inform Mr. Leslie that Monica would be making a speech in his stead. The sun began to set over the horizon, bathing the clouds in a shade of orange and pink. But I think with that, this is going to be a good time for us to end this episode. So thank you for watching. My name is Anthnwam. If you enjoyed, give me a thumbs up. Not enjoy, close some down. If you want to see more, subscribe, and goodbye.